Welcome into the NBA Closing Line show presented by SBR. He's Ian Cameron. I am Drew Martin. We're breaking down the two games on today's slate: Toronto, Philadelphia, Denver, Portland. Going off the SBR odds. Ian, happy Sunday to you. Happy Feliz Cinco de Mayo to you. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Hope you got your margaritas ready, your tequila shots ready. You got to celebrate the day in style. Have some tacos maybe at dinner tonight. So do all this stuff to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. So happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody that's indulging and celebrating in the day. And you've got a day to celebrate with lots of sports to talk about. Of course, we'll focus on the two NBA playoff games. We'll touch briefly on MLB, maybe the one NHL game as well. But a busy Sunday and Sunday fun day, as they like to say. This is one of them.
Yeah, Sunday fun day. Hopefully it is a fun one. Hopefully we can find some winners as well. We got Sergio in the chat. Welcome in, man. Jaco, what's up, man? Everyone in here. Jorge Don't Play. Jorge Don't Play, Ian, is one of my favorite names in the chat box. Welcome in, Jorge Don't Play. Sharp Money, Lamont Williams. How you guys doing? Who's one of your favorite names, Ian? Jorge Don't Play?
That's Jorge Don't Play is a really, really good one. I got to tip my cap to him coming up with that. Way to go.
Yeah, man. But Ian, we were just talking about some horse racing. We can talk about that as well, but do want to talk about the NBA off the start here. We had Golden State, Houston winning 126-121. Seth Curry missed a dunk there towards the end, had an influence on the outcome. At least it could have had an influence on the outcome of how that one changed. But we got tonight's games: Toronto, Philadelphia, north of the border, your team there. At least, your hometown team. I don't know how much of a fan you are. We're seeing 214.5 as the total, minus 2.5. Philadelphia laying at home. What are your initial thoughts here of the first game on the docket? 3:30 Eastern tip on ABC. What are you thinking here with the 76ers and Raptors?
This is one of those games and one of those series where it's amazing to see the difference in the public perception and the public narrative when you think about where this series was after game one, when the Raptors just absolutely dominated the 76ers and people saying, wow, Philadelphia could be in some big time trouble here in this series. Embiid battling health problems. He's been banged up the whole playoffs. How are the Sixers going to recoup? And sure enough, two straight very nice wins for the 76ers to now take the 2-1 series lead, including the blowout win over the Raptors in game three. By far, Joel Embiid's best game of the series. It's not even a question. He was fantastic in the win in game three, playing the way he's got to. If the Sixers are going to not only possibly win this series, but advance further and be a force in the East Finals and beyond, they need Joel Embiid giving you the performance that he did in game three, not the Joel Embiid that played in game one and game two. So the question now is going to be, can he get that going? Once again today, 76ers definitely have momentum. You got to love the way they're shooting the basketball. They've been tremendous offensively, shredded a really good Raptor defense. The Raptors have been one of the better defensive teams in the NBA all season. Sixers 43 of 84 from the floor. And I think it's worth noting, and not enough people are talking about this, the Raptors have been absolutely destroyed on the boards in this series. The rebounding battle has been dominated by the 76ers. They are out rebounding Toronto in this series, or in the last two games specifically, 97-71. So you're talking about a plus 26 margin on the glass for the 76ers. That's going to have to change if you're Toronto, because you're looking at a situation where you're giving teams consistently second and third chance opportunities after the initial miss. You're going to pay the price for that. You can only have good initial defense. You got to at least close out the defensive possession and rebound. And the Raptors are not doing that enough so far in this series. So that's probably why their defensive numbers have suffered a little bit. It's because they're not closing out the possession with the rebound, which is part of playing that defense and trying to get those stops, is closing out the possession by rebounding the miss. They're not doing that enough in the last two games of this series. We'll see if it changes today. The big news is obviously the health of Pascal Siakam for the Toronto Raptors. He has been probably their second best player most of the season behind Kawhi. He's doubtful for this game after suffering an injury in game three. It's not likely he's going to play. What all of this has done, though, is it's added to the narrative that Sixers are starting to take control of this series. They might start to win going away. It's influenced this number. Toronto was a slight road favorite before the Siakam news came to light. Now you're seeing all of a sudden Philadelphia 2.5, even 3 starting to show up here. This is a classic public perception, public narrative. Bandwagon's empty on Toronto. Everybody's loading up now on Philadelphia. I love spots like this. I'm going to wait it out, and I'm going to take all the points I can get with Toronto. I don't think they're done just yet. I think now everybody's just overreacting, which they love to do at this time of year in the NBA playoffs. They overreacted after Milwaukee's or Boston's game 1 win. Look what happened the next game. You know, they've overreacted just a ton of times here in these playoffs in various circumstances. Wait it out. There's no rush to back the Raptors right now. Wait it out till as long as you can, because I think the money could trickle in further on the Sixers. I'll be locking in Toronto at some point, open to get 3 or better, and just wait it out, see what the best number I can get. But yeah, I'll be on Toronto here.
Great breakdown, Ian. And guys, looking at SBR odds right now, you can get a 3 out there at Heritage. That is the one book showing 3 right now. Pretty much everybody else at 2.5. Ian, do you think, the majority go to 3? Do you think it's even possible we get a 3.5 here?
It is. I mean, it's because they're betting what they saw last, and that's the 76ers looking extremely impressive. First of all, I highly doubt they're going to shoot that well again. With the Raptors didn't turn into a garbage defensive team, all of a sudden. They had a really bad game. They didn't rebound the ball well enough, but definitely, yeah. And obviously, if you like the Sixers, bet them now. Don't wait. You absolutely have to take them now. You probably already missed the best of the number because it's been nothing but Philly money so far. So you're not getting great value, the best value, I should say. They still might win and cover, who knows? But you're just not getting the best value if you're betting them now and you haven't bet them already. But certainly if you haven't, you still want to bet the Sixers, do it now. I mean, run, don't walk to that account, to that betting window, wherever you bet. Do it now because I think the Sixers money will keep rolling in. If you like the Raptors like I do, wait. Like I say, wait till tip off. To me, the thing is, I'm reading all kinds of quotes. Lowry's the X factor today. If the Raptors are going to win this game today and get back in this series, Kyle Lowry's going to have to have a monster game. Unfortunately, we have not seen many of those from Kyle Lowry in playoffs past, and I fully understand that in endorsing Toronto here in this spot. But, he's saying all the right things. He says, I gave Kawhi no help. I gave him no support last game. I was terrible. I need to be a whole heck of a lot better. We all do as a team to give Kawhi. We need to help him out. Everybody's been saying that. I think it's one of those, embarrassing. It's a team that's embarrassed. I think they see Joel Embiid doing the old thing like that when he scores the basket. They see him flying like an airplane after a big dunk the last game. You think, the Raptors, if they have one little shred of pride, like unless this is some big time. Once again, here we go with the Raptors. Once again, another DQ special, another soft serve Dairy Queen special with this team, that they're soft, that they've got no pushback in them, no ability to face adversity. Unless they're one of these Raptors teams again, maybe they are. But if they're not, this is supposed to be a spot where they show up and maybe win this game. We'll see if that happens.
Great breakdown, Ian. Bunch of guys in the chat with some opinion. Antoine, he's like in the over. Jim Rome's a douche. Unless the refs help out, no way. Lowry's doing anything on Jimmy Butler. Daryl Wiles will wait to get a better number on the Raptors. Jesus taking the over 214.5. Josh Stanley in here. He's taking the points, hoping for a close game, thinking the 76ers win. George Cruz, Raptors. So I think a lot of people kind of interested in what you're saying as far as the Raptors waiting, taking the points, taking 3, which we can get right now at Heritage, possibly a 3.5, Ian. And it looks like a lot of people liking the over as well. Yeah,
I mean, the over's we're waiting. That was frustrating if you like the over in game 3. I wasn't on the total in game 3, but if you did, that game was cruising over the total for the longest time, and then it just died in the fourth quarter. Once Philly pulled away and Toronto knew, hey, we're not coming back, we're going to have to just live to fight another day. It just completely, the pace died, the scoring died, and a game that looked like it was on pace to just fly over the total. It stayed well under the total in game 3. So maybe now there's some extra value with the total now, because again, the adjustment being made down to 214.5 now. The total's just kept consistently dropping here in this series. Maybe it's gotten to the point where it's dropped too low. So I think from a value standpoint, if you're talking about buying low in a playoff series based on what you've seen game to game, I think probably the over is a buy low situation. And from the side perspective, like I say, I think Toronto's a buy low situation because nobody's going to want Toronto. Everybody thinks Philly's going to roll now. Philly's just dominated. Everybody's going to feed into the, oh, no Pascal Siakam. What are the Raptors going to do here? You know what the NBA is like. We've seen this many times before. I'm not saying the Raptors are going to do it, but how many times do we see a key player gone from a team? That first game without that key player, everybody just pulls up the bootstraps, does a little bit more, contributes a little bit better, contributes a little bit more, and helps that team overcome that absence. So those are usually bet on spots, believe it or not, in the NBA. It is unbelievable how many times you see a key player out of the lineup. First game without him, everybody just plays a little bit better, a little bit harder, does a little bit more, and they still win the game. So maybe the Raptors have that in them here.
Good stuff, Ian. And we got one more game here, guys. We'll break that down, get some quick thoughts on the MLB Diamond, maybe some NHL thoughts, and a little Kentucky Derby kind of recap. We'll just get into it in some form or fashion, but we do have one more NBA game we want to break down on tonight's slate. This one on TNT, 7 p.m. Eastern tip, 4 p.m. Pacific. We got the Denver Nuggets at the Portland Trailblazers. We all remember this last game. So this is an interesting handicap, a unique handicap, Ian. We're seeing -3 across the board right now. That's the Portland Trailblazers laying at home. 210.5 as well. So it's an interesting thing in terms of both total and side. No book is really taking an opinion. It's all the same, meaning, not some bettors are betting this way, some bettors are betting that way. Everybody's just pretty much staying the same. -3, 210 the total. What are you thinking here? Denver versus Portland tonight.
Denver's taking some money. The bigger move is the under. The under's taken a ton of money here.
Okay.
This game opened at 215. It's down to 210.5, 211. You're talking about a 4.5 point move on a total. And it's understandable why. When you think about it, these teams just gutted it out in game 4, that incredible classic quadruple overtime game. You got guys like Nikola Jokic on the court for 60 minutes, multiple guys playing 50 minutes on the floor. What happens the next game when you got to turn around 48 hours and you played that long the previous game? The shooting legs go out. You just don't have the lift on your Jimmy, playing this quickly after that kind of marathon game. So everybody sees that. The shooting legs just it may not be there today for a lot of the key players on both teams, especially when you look at Portland. They're a jump shooting reliant team. McCollum and Lillard specifically. You need to be able to be fresh and put some lift and oomph into your jump shot from the perimeter if you're going to hit a good high percentage. It's just simple. And this is a concern for me. Portland is a more jump shooting reliant team than Denver going into this game. I think that's key to look at going in here, because I think the jump shooters that don't rely on that penetration inside, that don't rely on those putbacks, layups, dunks, those easy baskets, those are the teams that get negatively impacted more by a 4 overtime game and having to play 48 hours later like these two teams are going to. So I think it's a little advantage Denver there. Like I said on yesterday's show, we talked about this game a little bit. I don't question Denver's resilience. They have shown it many, many times. Hell, they showed it in game 3, even though they lost in that overtime game. They were down like 5 or 6 in 2 of the overtimes to that Portland team. And each time they came back and tied it or took the lead. I mean, this team's just, they don't quit. They don't give in. I'd be shocked if Denver, you always worry in the back of your mind. I get it. You lost a crushing game. It was 4 overtimes. You lose that kind of game. You got to try to get up off the mat and battle again tonight, down 2-1 in the series. But I think Denver's the kind of team with their mental makeup and Malone's coaching that can get back up on their feet and play at a reasonable level and battle tonight once again in game 4. I think they got to realize, hey, that was a terrible game to lose. It was crushing, heartbreaking, whatever you want to call it, demoralizing, gut-wrenching, whatever term you want to use. But we win this game. This series is tied 2-2, and we got home court advantage back again. So not all is doom and gloom here for the Denver Nuggets. Come out here tonight, play a strong game, and I think they'll be fine. And like I say, they got a little bit more inside scoring than Portland does. And again, not quite as reliant on hitting big-time shots from the outside like Portland. And I think that could serve them well here. So I missed the boat on the under. The under certainly makes sense to me, but now it's down to 211, 210.5. You would think there's going to be some weary shooting from both teams after the kind of game we saw and all the energy and court time exerted the last game. So I'm going to stay off the total, but I will be on Denver here at +3. The numbers come down a bit on the Nuggets side, but this is a team that's proven to me to be mentally tough at many other instances earlier on in this postseason, and hopefully they can be once again tonight. And if they are, I think they're very live in this game to get the win.
Okay, another great breakdown, Ian. And yeah, I agree with you, man. The move towards the under makes a lot of sense. It's just a question of if you did miss the boat. 210.5 now across the board, and it has Portland -3. Ian, some guys asking for some MLB. We just broke down the 2 games on tonight's slate. We got 2 going tomorrow as well. Do you just want to throw out any quick thoughts here? Milwaukee, Boston, Golden State, Houston. I'll throw both games at you right now. Any quick thoughts you got on tomorrow's games?
Yeah, I probably won't be doing much with either one. I mean, Houston got the win they needed last night. We figured they had a good chance probably to win that game, down 2-0 at home, 2-1 now. But, as well as they played, they still needed to, tie the game in the last minute to force overtime and then eventually win the game in overtime. So it just worries me that it's the more I watch this series, the more I'm thinking, well, Houston's not the better of these two teams. And you would think Golden State off a loss, they're always a tough team to go against in that kind of spot. So I'm not buying Houston just winning these 2 home games. I think they're going to have to play even better than they did last night if they're going to win again in Game 4. So maybe a lean Golden State a little tomorrow night in that game. Milwaukee-Boston's tough. I mean, this is obviously the same kind of spot Toronto's in today. Boston can't go down 3-1 going back to Milwaukee. Got to win this game tomorrow. But I just worry a little bit that Milwaukee's starting to show once again why they were the number 1 seed in the East. I mean, they just took over that game in the second half in Game 3 against the Celtics. It was close at halftime, and then the Bucks just pulled away. Middleton was too much. Giannis Antetokounmpo was phenomenal. Even Pat Connaughton had a nice game for them as well. Bledsoe's had a solid series, solid playoffs really for the Bucks as well. It's just been too much for Boston to handle. And their defense, we talk about Brad Stevens, he's had some good defenses in the past with this team. They're struggling to get stops right now, and it seems like they're having a tough time matching up at the defensive end of the court right now with Milwaukee. So it's a Boston spot, no question. It's stake in the ground time. They got to win that game or else it's probably curtains for them. But I'm not sure I trust them matchup-wise to do it. So probably going to pass on Milwaukee-Boston. Right now I lean Golden State against Houston in the other game tomorrow night, but nothing definitive yet that I've locked in.
Okay, Ian, and we got a bunch of guys in the chat box. Keith saying Raps bench is missing in action. Jay Stanley Sports, Raptors bench is the Achilles heel.
That's the amazing part. That's worth talking about, Drew. The Raptors bench has been supposed to be the edge that they had. One of the biggest edges they were supposed to have going into this series was the play of their bench. Their bench has been awful. In fact, nobody outside of Kawhi Leonard 2 games in a row has played good, starters or bench, as far as I'm concerned. That's got to change, and that's why the Raptors, everybody's saying it. The bench has to be better. The Kyle Lowry and Gasol and Danny Green, they all said it after the last game. We all have to be better, bench and starters, to help Kawhi out. Well, today's their chance to prove it, but it's amazing to see how, like, James Ennis is killing the Raptors, for crying out loud, on the Sixers. He's had a great season. Mike Scott came back from injury, hit some big shots for Philadelphia in the last game. Their bench has really contributed and done some nice things for the Philadelphia 76ers. And if you were to say to me before the series began, Philadelphia was going to not just outperform and outproduce the Raptor bench, but do it decisively and in a massive discrepancy like what's played out so far, I would have said there's no way. But that's exactly what's happened, and it's going to be up to Toronto to try to change that today.
Ian, we got Edward saying, never go against me when I'm capping my Rockets team. He's knowing the Rockets pretty good. Who wants a winner from Jay Stanley? Yo, I made it. Are we going to freaking crash tickets today or what? Let's get it from Mikey D. Mikey D in the house. Always like when he's a part of this. Jim Rome's a douche. If Jokic is alive, Denver advantage full show. So, Ian, a bunch of guys asking here for MLB, saying they're kind of excited to bet the diamond today. We got best bets coming up off of a down day yesterday, still 11-7 year to date. Best bets on the show, guys. We're here 11 a.m. Eastern time, both Saturday and Sunday. This is the NBA closing line. We'll break down all the games on that day's slate. You also got Kings Court weeknights as well, breaking down NBA and Jimmy the Bag, the great one for SBR. He's breaking down NBA as well on his show. Ian Cameron on Twitter at Babano. He's a great follow. If you're not following him, you're doing yourself a disservice. Ian, you're doing the NHL as well. You got CFL around the corner. You want to hit on either of those two real quick? Any talking points you want to throw out with the CFL or NHL?
Well, CFL is a month away. Training camps are going to be starting in a few weeks. We're looking forward to that. We hope there's going to be CFL starting on time. There's a labor disputes collective bargaining agreement being negotiated. The players and the league, they're hoping to avoid a work stoppage, so hopefully that's the case, and CFL will start on time next month. NHL, I'll talk about it right now. There's one game today. It's an elimination game, St. Louis, Dallas. Dallas up 3-2 in the series. They're minus 125 home favorites in game 6. The total 5 shaded to the over. I'm on Dallas, and I'm on the over in that game, side and total. I think the Stars end it today. I think they've taken momentum in this series. They're playing better the last couple of games. St. Louis is having a hard time now finishing their chances. I think the Dallas top forwards, especially the last couple games, have played better than the St. Louis top forwards. Ben, Sagan, Radulov, Dickinson, Rupe Hintz, Zuccarello. They've all been great. Jason Spezza has basically come back from the dead, so to speak. Fourth line player now at the twilight of his career, yet he stepped up with 3 goals in this series, including a goal in the Game 5 win for the Dallas Stars. He's really played good. The defense has been great. Lindell, and when he's not diving and flopping around, but his play, has been good. Haskinen's been great as well on that blue line for the Dallas Stars. 2 really good young defensemen they've got back there. They've been excellent on the back end. Klingberg. It's been a Dallas defense that's done a great job getting the rushes started, moving the puck, playing very good defensively. I'm amazed how much improved Klingberg is in terms of his defensive play. This guy was very, very shaky in terms of playing in his own zone early in his career. He's gotten a lot better there. And, of course, Ben Bishop in net has been really, really strong, especially the last couple of games for the Dallas Stars. I don't rule St. Louis out completely. They're a good team, but I think as this series goes on, Dallas is looking more and more assertive in this series. And I think they got a chance to finish it today. So remember, they finished the last series against Nashville as well on home ice. So, they've shown a track record, at home in a game 6 that they can win a series. They did it against Nashville. I'm going to see if they can do it again. I'm on Dallas there, minus 125. And an elimination game with a total of 5 is an automatic over bet for me, Drew, because you got the goalie out of the net for the last, 3, 4, 5 minutes. If they're down in the game, St. Louis, they're going to pull the goalie earlier. You got multiple chances, multiple minutes where you could have an empty net goal or 2 empty net goals, or you could have a goal for St. Louis if they're down 2, make it a 1-goal game, and you can still have an empty net goal after that. So it's just it's too low of a number in an elimination game to bet under when it's 5. It's just there's too much that could go crazy and hellacious at the end of a third period of an elimination game. So Dallas and the over for me in this game today.
I like that handicapping angle you bring up, pulling the goalie down 1. Yeah, I could see him going out pretty early. What if they're down 2? Will they still pull the goalie?
Oh, there we go. I wasn't expecting a question that quick. Yes, absolutely they will. If they're down 2 goals to St. Louis, let's say it's 3-1 with 5 minutes to go, they'll probably take the goalie out, Jordan Binnington. They'll probably take him out with 4 minutes to go because they need 2 goals. They have to win this game. Season's over. If they lose today, St. Louis, they might pull them even earlier. That's 4 minutes, 3-1 with 4 goals, and the total's 5. There's a damn good chance you'll at least get 1 for the push. And there's still a pretty good chance you might get 2 goals during that span to get you a win out of it. So that's why if there's even just 3 or 4 total goals scored in the game, once we get to the last 6 minutes or so of the third period, you've still got a chance to push, if not win, your over bet because of what could happen in the last few minutes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. And I like that handicapping angle. Guys, we broke down the 2 games on today's slate for the NBA playoffs at the beginning of the show. We just got some thoughts from Ian on the NHL here. We're going to move to MLB and then come back for best bets to finish off the show. So want to get to MLB right now. And if you're liking the content, please give us the like symbol, the thumbs up. That does help Ian and myself out. Also, it helps SBR as well. So, Ian, we got the full slate here. Sunday, MLB starting off the top of the card. Atlanta, Miami, a bunch of 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock games here. all the way down to Oakland Pitt at the bottom of the card. We got Sunday night baseball. Looks like St. Louis at Chicago in Wrigley Field. Is there any game you wanted to start off on the diamond that kind of tickling your fancy?
Mets and Brewers is a optimal over the total situation. My one concern is that was such a crazy and long game last night. What did they play? 17, 18 innings last night, Mets and Brewers. Brewers won an extra innings. Like, both bullpens are just spent for this.
Right.
Like, who the hell is going to be available? You've got Jason Vargas, who is not a guy that's very sturdy, not a guy that pitches deep into ball games. So that's a terrible situation here for the Mets, especially. Milwaukee's got a little bit better bullpen, no question, but even their bullpen, even with Hader, they used a lot of their key arms last night in that game. Davies is definitely better than Vargas, no question. He's had a decent season to this point, but to me, this could be one of those games where even if the starters, minimize the damage and it's maybe 3-1 after the fourth inning or something, or fifth inning, you could still get that game over the total because the bullpens are just gassed on both sides. Overused taxed arms from the marathon game last night. So over the total makes sense. Milwaukee too in some form. I would definitely lean to the home team there in that one, just because Davies and their bullpen is certainly a little bit, in my opinion, more trustworthy than the Vargas and their bullpen, which is even, not a great bullpen to begin with, the Mets. So Milwaukee and the over makes sense to me in that game. The one concern with betting an over after a game like that is that the bats are just, people are just, the hitters are not locked in. They're feeling the fatigue of the game the night before as well. And maybe they have some feeble at bats, some weak at bats than they normally would have. But I'd be willing to overlook that and think we get runs in that game. So Milwaukee and the over stands out in that one.
Okay, I can see that as well. I'm looking at Atlanta, Miami, Tehran versus Lopez. Lopez is a pretty good pitcher. I'll give him that. He can be shaky though, not bring it sometimes. Along with a lot of these Marlins, a young team, talented in some respects as far as high ceiling guys, but this year, obviously, or not obviously, but likely going to be under 70 wins on the season. Just laying minus 120. The Braves, you get the better lineup. Granted, it is a shaky bullpen. I'm looking towards the Braves here at minus 120. Ian, you got anything here? And I know Tehran has had trouble on the road, but still, overall, he's a pitcher that, I could see him, 6 innings, 2 earned. And at that point, with an Atlanta ticket minus 120, I would feel pretty solid about that going into the later innings. Ian, any feelings here, Braves and Marlins?
Well, we have to salute both of us, Drew, for we both like Braves on the run line yesterday with Soroka. Yeah. I told you, Soroka against a weak lineup, this is his chance to settle in and finally pitch well, and he did. He had actually a little rough start, but after that he settled down. It was tremendous the rest of the way against Miami. So an easy win for Atlanta there. You know what? I don't like Tehran. I don't have very good success betting on or betting against Tehran. He's just one of those pitchers that when I'm on him, he stinks. When I'm against him, he pitches well. That's been the kind of betting relationship I've had with Tehran the last couple of seasons. But I'll tell you this right now, you're not going to see me bet Miami at a price like this. You're going to put Miami in a competitively lined game at plus 115? No way. Not this team. They are that bad. So if you like Atlanta, I'm certainly not going to talk you out of it. This is from a price perspective. Throw out the starters. Just from a price perspective, sure as hell to me looks cheap on Atlanta.
Okay. Another game I was looking at was Cincinnati. We get Luis Castillo minus 160-ish before. Now we're seeing minuses 180s. I kind of feel like the boat has left as far as value on Cincinnati and fading Jeff Samardzija, seeing a total of 8. So it's tough to recommend it at minus 180 right now. But I think Castillo is absolutely a bet-on pitcher, one of the lowest ERAs in MLB, great strikeout guy. I'm not sure if you have anything on San Francisco, Cincinnati, Ian.
First 5 under the total would make some sense to me in this game. Actually, Samardzija has been really good for San Francisco the last few starts. He has pitched well. Obviously, this is going to be a tougher ballpark, no question, going to Great American. Castillo, you're right about Castillo. He's definitely a guy I would want to back. And one of the few pitchers in this Reds rotation that I like, that I think has a good amount of upside, has a decent, bright future ahead of him. We know the San Francisco lineup is nothing to write home about. That's been a weird series where it's actually been higher scoring than you would think with those two teams. I think this, especially on a getaway day now, Sunday, Samardzija has been in good form recently. I like Castillo a lot. He's one of those guys that, this is his home ballpark. He should fare better in Cincinnati than a lot of other guys would. So, but I don't like the bullpens, and the bullpens have struggled in this series. The San Fran bullpen's been terrible. The Cincinnati bullpen's been shaky as well. So, under makes sense, but I would definitely like the first 5 option better than the full game and just rely on the starters to get it done for me.
Okay, good stuff, Ian. We got a Red Girl in the house. Good morning, Red Girl. Chris Kaiser in here, Reds game under. That's what he's like. And Douglas Robinson in the house, as is Ricky Bobby. What is up, guys? Daryl Lyles like in Reds Giants first 5 under. Chris saying Miami with that sharp money. There was a little move, yeah, for sure, towards Miami. I think it's a fade on Tehran away from home. His numbers haven't been that good. One other game I was looking at here, Ian, Oakland, Pittsburgh, Montez versus Lyles. I think Oakland here at the under minus 120. You can find them as low as minus 115 at Bet Online. I'm looking towards the A's here. I know Montez has been roughed up in some of his starts, but overall, he's kind of an electric pitcher. He can get strikeouts, and as long as he has his control, which is a question mark, but still at this price, under minus 120, I'm looking towards the A's. Did you have any thoughts here, A's and Pirates?
Yeah, this with Oakland, it could be buy low with the Oakland Athletics. Remember, the Oakland Athletics were going through a miserable run. They got swept by Toronto twice. Mm-hmm. That's hard to believe. They got swept by Toronto twice. They got, I believe, swept by Boston earlier this week. Nothing going right. They weren't hitting. The pitching wasn't great. The bullpen even. And they're supposed to have a good bullpen, with some of the guys they've got at the back end, Trevino and Trinan. Their closer. They're supposed to have a pretty good bullpen, Oakland, and even they've struggled, but showing signs of turning it around. They got a huge win Friday night in the first game of this series. They did blow it. I mentioned that bullpen that did blow it last night against Pittsburgh, so we got a 1-1 series. Oakland's a better team than their current record shows. I think there's going to be some money to be made with Oakland moving forward. We still remember they had one of the most torrid runs you'll ever see last year in helping them get into the playoffs. We know this team can get hot. And has shown that ability under the manager, Bob Melvin, there. So I wouldn't totally write off this Oakland team yet. Montez is a guy that I don't mind. He's been solid. That's a good matchup. We know Pittsburgh's a light-hitting lineup a lot of the time. This is not a great, prolific Pirates lineup by any stretch in PNC, which is a park that should benefit him as well. Here's the issue with Lyles. Lyles he got hit on the hand, I believe, his pitching hand with a ball in a recent game. And ever since then, he's had walk issues and he's had trouble, locating the strike zone on a consistent basis. So he's struggling with his command and control a little bit. That could be trouble here against Oakland. Oakland is, supposed to be a patient lineup. They've shown that ability to be a patient lineup in the past. So if Lyles has those command issues again, that could be bad news for him and the Pirates. So yeah, I'm with you there. I would look Oakland or nothing.
Okay, good stuff, Ian. We got Tomar saying Oakland's bullpen has been garbage. They seem to always start slow. That was something that Ian was alluding to. MLB saying Brewers under first 5, Reds under first 5 as well. Yeah, I like that Reds under first 5. Ruiz in here, 76ers for sure, first quarter and full game. Red Girl like in Reds first 5. I like the Reds as well, Red Girl. So a lot of people looking towards that side. That might be worth a look. We got best bets coming up. Ian, did you want to throw out anything else before we get to best bets?
Toronto and Texas, man, the Buchholz in a park like Texas, he's given up some home runs, Clay Buchholz. That's been an issue for him. And you've got Smiley on the other hand, a lefty, who is at the tail end of a career. He's been bounced around from team to team. A lefty against that Toronto lineup should be a good matchup for the Blue Jays. They do have better numbers against lefties this season than they do against righties. You've got 2 bullpens that have been spent. That was a game yesterday, I think, where both starters, Lynn and Pannone, in the Saturday night game between these two teams, they both didn't pitch deep. Bullpens were used a lot. I would really try to scale back on overs on Sundays because it's getaway day and you get a lot of these situations where teams are looking forward to getting the game over with, getting on to the next city and the next series. But man, even at 10.5, this screams like there should be runs in bunches in this game. I mean, Buchholz is having home run problems. You don't want that against Texas and the way they can hit with that power lineup. And on the flip side, you got a lefty against the Blue Jays, which is usually good news for the Blue Jays. So that game should go over the total. It's 10.5. It's a Sunday. I get it. High total Sunday baseball, which is usually better for unders, but That game should have a ton of runs in it if it plays out to the way I think it will.
All right, we got Rob saying under full game on Mets versus Brewers. Jays lose from Keith. Rob saying under full game Mariners versus Indians. Blue Jay money line or first five from Red Girl. Tomar, I like Van Fleet starting. Toronto needs a third playmaker since Green just shoots. All right, Ian, great show, man. We got to get to best bets and then shut this down. But guys, please give us the like button. It helps us out. And best bets, we're 11-7 on the year. So overall up. Yesterday was a down day, so we got to bounce back here. Ian, I'll let you have at it, man. What are you thinking for best bets for the show?
Well, I'm going to be on Toronto and Denver today. It's just a question of which one NBA-wise am I going to use. I still don't trust the Raptors enough to show me that they're past the playoff woes of the past, to finally, hey, we're finally adversity. We're going to show you we can beat adversity for a change. Because what's been the MO of the Raptors in the past? When the going gets tough, the tough with the Raptors don't get going. That's been the issue with them. They've wilted. Whenever a series has started to get away from them, they've completely wilted and melted down. So I think this in theory could be a different Toronto team. It should be. You got way more playoff experience, way more veterans with Leonard and Green and Ibaka and Gasol. You're supposed to be able to overcome all that this year and be different, be a stronger, mentally tougher team. So I'm going to think they can do that, but I don't trust it enough to make that the best bet. So by default, I'm going to make Denver +3 my best bet against Portland. I do think Denver is going to be resilient. Tough loss the other night. Obviously, 4 overtimes. You play every bit as hard as Portland does, and you don't get the result to go with it. But Denver's still in this series. Come back strong. I think the fact that you played 4 overtimes negatively impacts Portland a little bit more than it does Denver because, again, they're more reliant on the outside shot, and that could be a little bit of a tough proposition when you played that many minutes and you don't have that same lift in your jump shot that maybe you did the last game or in a normal situation. So give me Denver here. And I like the way that this team has responded to tough situations in the past. They did against San Antonio. Let's not forget one of the best games Denver has had at these playoffs. They were down 2-1 going into game 4 against San Antonio, and they dominated the Spurs in that game 4 road win. Obviously, there's a better Portland team. I'm not asking them to dominate Portland, but can they get the win? And hell, even if they don't get the win, can they stay within a bucket here? +3? I think they can. So give me the Denver Nuggets +3 against Portland for best bet.
Denver +3 best bet for Ian Cameron at Babano on Twitter. And my best bet will be Golden State Warriors tomorrow night over the Houston Rockets. I'm taking the +2, putting it in my pocket on the Golden State Warriors tomorrow night in the nightcap. So we got Ian, Denver +3. I'm on the Golden State Warriors tomorrow +2. So hopefully the underdogs cash today and tomorrow. For Ian Cameron on Twitter at Babano, I am Drew Martin on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Please smash the like button on your way out. Best of luck with your bets today, this weekend, and we will see you next Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. For Ian Cameron, I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck today.